Welcome to Quantum RX, the podcast that teaches you how to move beyond stuck emotions and trauma for mind, body, and spirit healing. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Davis. How often do you think about your kidneys? How often does your doctor talk about your kidneys with you? My suspicion is that it's not very often because, unfortunately, in the world of medicine, the greater world of medicine, not just conventional medicine, but also functional medicine, integrative medicine, holistic medicine, often the kidneys are ignored until they've lost so much function that you have to be put on dialysis or have a kidney transplant. That is unfortunately the way that many people are taught to look at the kidneys. But today I have the pleasure of interviewing my friend and somebody who I've long admired, Dr. Robin Rose, because she is a kidney pioneer. She's the person who taught me everything that I know about kidney health, but also put kidneys on my radar as a functional medicine and holistic medicine provider. It was something that I never really, I don't want to say I didn't pay attention to it, but I was in that paradigm of, I was taught to look at certain lab levels and think, your kidneys are fine until they hit a certain level. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And so today I am honored to bring Dr. Robin Rose onto the show, and we're going to dive into many aspects of kidney health and kidney healing. We're going to talk about everything from labs and supplements and peptides, but we're also going to get into the emotional, spiritual, and energetic aspects of kidney health too. Because if you actually look at traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, they actually place a lot of importance on the kidneys and kidney health. So that's something that she is bringing to the world now, just this knowledge of kidney, just everything kidneys. She has coined it renology, and I am very excited to bring her on so that you can hear and you can learn all about, what it really takes to have healthy kidneys and why that's important. 3 of the main highlights that we're going to talk about today are, first, labs to consider for assessing kidney health and what a healthy GFR is. 2, we're going to be going over the energetics, emotional, and spiritual aspects underlying kidney dysfunction and disease. And 3rd, we're going to give you the top 10 lifestyle factors to address if your kidney function is declining or not optimal. Dr. Robin Rose is a longtime voyager and pioneer in the world of conscious and holistic healing, from working with a doctor and sadhu healers in India to following the path from nursing to nurse practitioner to medical school. She's had the opportunity to learn healing ways from many different cultures. Her passion for kidney health came later in life when she was threatened by kidney cancer and kidney disease, which called her to discover regenerative and functional ways to recover and heal. In that decade journey, she's brought other patients and clinicians into a new healing paradigm called renology, the art and clinical science of kidney success. She is the author of Renology Peptides, which embraces many approaches to kidney health and calls to the spirit of loving life and the self in the process of reclaiming health. If you're curious as to if you have any stored emotions or trauma that might be causing your illness, preventing you from achieving your goals, or even just showing up as the best, most authentic version of yourself, I invite you to take my free stored emotions and trauma quiz, and you'll find that link in the show notes. Well, I'm so excited to have Dr. Robin Rose on with us today because she has been somebody that I have watched and conversed with on social media and Facebook groups for a long time. And I have so much respect for her and her journey and her passion for kidney health because she doesn't do it on a superficial level. She's deep into it. And again, I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's nice to finally see you in
Yes.
a visual.
Yes, right. So you have had, your journey, your professional journey has been, you've been lots of different things, nurse practitioner, doctor, and now you're this like kidney, the kidney queen. And so I would love for you to share your journey with the audience, because I think that's super important for them understanding the context from where you came.
Got it. Yeah, it is, because many of us are on this journey, but I had the advantage of having a medical degree, so I could ascertain that what was coming at me might not be to my best advantage. I look at what preceded my illness, and I had an enormous amount of stresses. I mean, big things. My medical practice was embezzled, and that was utter crazy making. And the woman basically got nothing. It was an enormous wake-up call. Both of my parents got ill, and I shepherded each of them to their end. A partner of 10 years physically assaulted me in the midst of my mom's dying, which was also a wake-up call and an adios. And so that's a stage, and I think it's important for people to understand, when these intense things happen in your life, it's a very likely thing to have some consequence, unless you're paying more attention maybe than I did. Anyway, the good part of the story is within a very short time of this assault by the ex, I met the man who I'd been waiting for my whole life since childhood. Mm-hmm. We went off and traveled and ended up coming and spending a prolonged amount of time in Hawaii, having found the cold weather of Oregon to be unpleasant. And all of a sudden, I got a norovirus, another stress to the system. Yeah. Didn't ever get better. Went back to pack and move here and started spiking scary high blood pressures, 220 over 110. Okay. Uh-oh. I'm thinking maybe I got an adrenal tumor, something. I mean, this is not, me, the 90 over 50 for decades normal. Mm-hmm. And I went to see someone who had just completed the integrative medicine program in Tucson, and had been a specialist. And this is an important point, because specialists are specialists. Primary care is a specialty that's very different. Yeah. So, here, I have, I don't know, with some obvious signs. And this person got in my face and first said, "Have you ever considered meditation?" I'm like, well, I've taught it for the last half century, but yeah, I've considered it. Yeah. And then, what can you say? And then that was bad enough. And then got in my face, "Repeat after me, Robin. I am healthy. Come on, say it. Oh. And the word I said, I won't repeat now, but you can imagine the Jersey girl. Either you order me a CAT scan or I'll order it myself. Yeah. Okay. She ordered the CAT scan. I called the radiologist. So like, "Hey, Joe, what's it say?" It's like, just read it to me. So it turned out I had a 5+ centimeter tumor on my left kidney. I had this clarity. I want this out. So I went ahead and did the surgery, had a nephrectomy. I could write a book about all of the unfortunate moments in all of that, in ways that, because I've been a holistic doc for so long and supported people going through surgery in very powerful ways, good outcomes. How come you're so better so fast? Was the surgeons to my patients. What do you do with these people? but that was stymied left and right. It was really challenging. But 3 weeks post-op, came back to this beautiful place that I live, and 3 months into it, went back to Oregon to get a follow-up, to assess, and found out I had a GFR, which is the glomerular filtration rate. Is a made-up number that helps us kind of go, where are you in this?
Yeah.
I had a GFR of 30, which I consider to be 25% function.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. Went to see a nephrologist who said, don't worry about it. People live a long time like this. Well, like this meant I didn't feel good. I felt like I had the flu almost all the time. And so I went about trying to figure out, what do I do? I really didn't know. And that's when I realized conventional medicine, and even some of the less conventional medicine, doesn't really have a handle on what do you do with kidney decline, and found out that the cutoff between what we consider normal and abnormal is 50% loss already. And I was like, what? I had a lot of conversation in my head about this. And thank God, I literally prayed. I was sitting on my couch going, I need help. I need somebody who knows more than me about this. Reached out to my table in front of the couch, pulled up a Townsend letter, opened the Townsend letter to an article by Jenna Henderson, a naturopath, whose practices kidney.
Yeah,
and I called her. I called Jenna, and it was like, she answered. It was like, hello? And so I went off and got new labs, and Jenna really gave me a path, which I took off, sitting basically right here in this incredibly beautiful place, surrounded by birds and hula dancing palm trees and an internet. And started looking up things like, well, what about potassium? What about this? What about that? And gradually started getting a sense that there are ways to go about this. Stage 2, which is a GFR of 60 to 90, isn't normal at all. And a lot of what we know in functional medicine is already happening.
Yeah.
Cool. We have stuff we know how to do. And it, it was a profound spiritual experience for me because, health food Hannah here doesn't get cancer. Like what?
Yeah.
What? And so a lot of deep spiritual work, emotional work, changing things that I thought were healthy, but they were no longer healthy for me. Mm-hmm. And learning that, this declined kidney state is kind of a quirky thing. A lot of the stuff we think is good isn't necessarily when the kidney function declines. And, and most of what we're focused on is the glomerulus, so, there's the glomerulus that filters everything. And then there's this elegant system of tubules that kind of gets neglected because, we don't have any testing. I have discovered some ways to test that. And I fully believe that if we, as a culture, step in and guide people to find their willingness to make the changes, to embrace what they can do, to accept healing, we don't have to have this big industry of dialysis.
Right.
Because basically by that time you are dead. Without that machine, you're dead. And I was like, I was clear, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I want to get better. Or I'm old enough, that's it then. Okay. Surrender. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I slowly, first I got, into the mid 30s and I was like, I feel sort of better, not really. Into the 40s, way better. Into the 50s, I was like, yeah. Currently, one kidney GFR has gone up to 68. So the question is, what did I do?
Yeah.
And I'd like to see it 70 to 80. That would be cool. But, I'm grateful at this point. I made massive changes. I learned, what do you do with diet? I mean, what you put in your mouth is as important as what goes out. And it's different than what you think. This whole big high meat protein fad that's going on is absolutely insane for kidney. Yeah. And I've guided a lot of people who were stuck in their meat place out of that and watch their function improve and feel better, and things like uric acid and phosphorus and parathyroid hormone get better.
Yep. That's
And
so interesting. Yep.
And
not
so,
surprising, right? Yeah.
There's a list. The diet is the queen. Exercise, you gotta. Sleep, you gotta make it work. Hydration, obvious. Toxins is one that, honestly, I've been shocked. I have brought up the idea of toxins in kidney in, like doctor Facebook groups and been ridiculed. What'd you learn that on Google U? And I'm like, apparently you must have missed toxicology lectures. They had them at my med school. Gee whiz.
Yeah. Right.
And it's enormous, from the environmental stuff to what's in our food, to what's in our minds and our spirit.
Yes.
I mean, all of it. To other people, I've had you should live and be well, but not with me, because of too much toxicity. And so all that went along. I got my GFR into the 50s before I found peptides. And then after doing all of this other work, I was really delighted to understand that there's a way to kind of reverse some of the damage that comes, epigenetics is what causes a lot of kidney. There's a few genetic processes. That's different story, and that also can be remedied, but especially, these lifetime of toxic hits at whatever level can be reversed. And then I discovered the bioregulator peptides, which I have a cartoon that I do. They're tiny. They get in the cell, which is unusual. Things need a whole escort service. These just
normally
slip in. They get into the nucleus. They actually get into the DNA, lodge in the DNA, stretch it open, repair what damages there was. They use the histones to re-envision factory settings.
Right.
And when I did that, I was like, I want that.
Yeah.
Where do I get to? And started very gradually looking at the whole system of these, which led me to understand kidney isn't just kidney. There's the kidney brain axis, the kidney eye axis, the kidney thyroid, the kidney thymus, the kidney lung, blah, 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 blah. There's about 21 different categories of these. And so I wrote a book, which is a fatty. I'll show you guys, because I can't help it and love my cover. Isn't this gorgeous? And essentially discovered that each body system that's affected by kidney can be remedied, that we actually can do stuff to reverse these things. And not every person, and there is a what I call the kidney demic. It's an enormous epidemic worldwide. Each person's unique in the collage of what they have going on. I mean, there's patterns that you see. And so, over time, I've really evolved this idea that regenerative kidney is correct. And so I call what I do renology, which is the art and clinical science of kidney success.
Yes.
As opposed to, what do they tell you? Kidney failure.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. We don't want failure. I don't want, I went to med school. Failure. You don't do failure. Even if I didn't feel good, what I'm doing, even if I didn't feel good and I laid down, I would lay and do bed yoga, do breath practices, do mantra, I can, I will. I mean, whatever it is, that's free. That doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't come in a bottle. It comes at a soul level to decide.
Absolutely.
I'm okay. It's interesting. I just read this book. It's old, but I hadn't seen it before. Called The Help. It's a great novel, and in it, the author is kind of cameoing herself, and her mother had stomach cancer and was dying, and at a point she decided, I decided I'm not dying, and got better. I love that. I mean, the book is worth reading. It's a great book. There's a movie I've heard. But, the idea of choosing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And being unattached, because you know what? I was prepared. It might not work.
Yes. Yeah. I have that conversation with people a lot, that being unattached to the outcomes actually leads you to better outcomes, because you don't have this expectation there and you're not going to push towards it, right? Because when we push, it inherently creates resistance to that outcome. So I think that's a really important point.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. You can try, but ultimately it's do.
Yes. Yeah.
Me and Yoda, it's like,
Yep.
what can I do? And there's a lot of stuff you can change. You don't have to do it all in one day.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, I talked to somebody yesterday and he was ready. Oh, I'm going to change. I'm like, no.
Yes.
Let's go slow.
Yep.
Start out with, what do I drink?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people I've worked with are like addicted to their soda. It's like, no, you don't want that. Let's find other things. Let's then look at, what do you do for breakfast?
Yeah.
What movement do you do? Like a little bit at a time. And suddenly this big ship turns around and it's like, wow, I've started gaining muscle instead of losing it. My brain function is working better.
Yes.
It's a subtle shift, because innate healing is real.
Yes.
Our bodies want that homeostasis. We're all seeking that balance.
Yeah.
And yet the world is toxic. Things happen, traumas happen, accidents happen. I watched my dog. My dog recently got attacked, and I was unsure if she wasn't going to die.
Right.
And I just watched her. We prayed together. I mean, I saw her get what I was doing. And to watch this healing process, it's gorgeous. It's really stunning, and to have gratitude and embrace that health is a state of sanctity. It's a holy state.
It is. It really, really is. It's interesting because that's something that I talk to people a lot about. And we talked before earlier about kind of like the nocebos, and, kidney failure is it's so negative. And when people hear that, they're automatically going to like lose hope and despair. And that's something that I talk with people a lot about, is changing, the way we think about this, and that you can have hope because your body innately is designed to heal. And I always ask, that's what you said earlier. You mentioned, the willingness. Are you willing, to do the work? Are you willing to heal? And something I ask them is, do you believe you can heal? Because that's huge. Because I ask them, I'm like, if you get a cut, do you believe it'll heal? Yes. If you have a cold and do nothing, do you believe you'll heal? Yes. Well, do you believe you'll heal from whatever you're coming to see me with? Right. And there's often hesitation, right? Some people are like, maybe. Some people say no. And there aren't a lot of people who are profoundly yes. When the point you made is huge, right? Our bodies are designed to heal if we give it the right input and right ingredients and treat it the right way, which I love the way that you approached the whole vision of Renology, because you're not just dialing in on, the biochemistry and the diet. You're looking at the lifestyle. You're looking at the spirituality and the mental side, all of it. And that makes me so happy, because that, earlier we were talking about functional medicine, right? And like why their functional and integrative medicine have issues, because they aren't, really considering the entire person, which interestingly, I've always wanted to ask you the question, why do you think the kidneys are underrepresented in obviously conventional medicine, but even in integrative and functional medicine and holistic worlds? I feel like they are neglected. So why do you think that is?
I've thought about this, believe me. For one thing, historically, we waited until people were puffy and terribly ill. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the tradition wasn't for like, oh, we can understand what's going on. Okay, creatinine, it's really imperfect.
Yeah.
Getting the GFR, which again is imperfect, but I think a very useful piece of machinery there is it changed things, and yet kidney is very complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been sitting here for a decade and I'm still humbled by how much I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people have been intimidated by nephrology, and nephrologists are like these amazingly brainiac people. I mean, I have great admiration. And yet, unfortunately, it's like the industry took over.
Yes.
And end of the line therapies, dialysis and transplant has gotten all the research money.
Yeah.
And here, little family doc comes along going, well, wait a minute, I want to look at the early part of this and what we already know how to do to turn it around. And yet there's still, I did a consult with somebody yesterday with their functional doctor on the call because he had told the patient, I didn't realize there was that much to know about kidney. And this was a guy who unfortunately had gotten really slammed. We're thinking from COVID and COVID shots, and to realize, there's a lot of downstream consequences for decreased filtration.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And as I was saying before, the tubules in the kidneys are critical. And again, I take it to a spiritual. Raja Yoga is the yoga of discernment. It's how we navigate in the world. Well, what does the kidney do? It discerns what should I keep and what should I get rid of. And so if you're keeping toxins and you're excreting necessary nutrients, which is some of what can happen, that's a problem. And the tubules are like these wise, amazing, tiny little things. And I've just now come up with beta-2 microglobulin testing is important.
Okay.
And so here, this is a little sciencey, but
cool.
We all know proteinuria. If you're spilling protein, it shows up on everybody gets a urinalysis. You can tell, do I have protein or not? If you do, you need to attend to it. But those are big proteins. They get through the glomerulus and the podocytes. They're big. Yeah. But in the tubules, low molecular weight proteins can get through. Yeah. If you don't measure them, you don't know. Yeah. And there are a few tests that you can do that are low molecular weight, which includes, beta-2 microglobulin. That's becoming my more favorite one. Alpha-1 microglobulin and retinol binding protein. And they're not all available everywhere, which is why the beta-2 appeals to me, because you can get it easily. Yeah. But once you understand, the tubules have to do with the uremic dysbiosis, which is real. It's similar but different to the other kind of dysbiosis everybody's talking about, because uremic toxins are a whole huge conversation. Things are toxic to people with kidney decline that is fine with other people, phosphorus being one. Yeah. Endothelial changes, mitochondrial changes, sympathetic nervous system over. This is all happening because the tubules are messed up. Yeah. And there are ways to deal with that. And so, it's the first thing for clinicians is willingness to even know that there are kidneys. And you hear people go, oh, and it affects da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I didn't hear you say kidneys. Yeah. Or, I'll hear cases presented. It's like, do you know what the kidney function is? Yeah. And do you know how your tubules are functioning? Well, no, I don't even know how to do that. So we're really all learning as a community. And I'm having fun. I was going to be retired and play in my garden all the time. And now I'm retread and I still play in my garden, but I can't not have this conversation. Like you said before, I mean, I think there's a reason that this happened. I don't know if it's a reason, but for whatever it's worth, I now know about this.
It was gifted to you.
I'm a Sagittarius. I want everybody else to know this. I'm shocked at how people suffer and they're not getting helped.
Yeah. You're the reason that for the past, I would say, 5.5 or 6 years that on whenever I run, just basic labs on people, I'm always looking at kidney function. And if it's below 90, we're doing something to address it. It's that important. And I educate people on that because I'm like, yes, your kidneys have some level of regenerative capacity. Obviously, this, but it's like when it gets to a certain point, they're not coming back. So we need to, build them up and support them as much as we can, right? Because unlike some of our other tissues that do have a little bit more regenerative capacity, they only, I feel like they're a little more sensitive, right?
The risk is fibrosis.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you get oxidative stress and then it leads to inflammation. We know about this, every functional anybody.
Yes.
Not so much the conventional docs have strategies except kind of toxic ones. But that leads to scarring.
Yeah.
The fibrosis that can happen. It can happen to the tubules, to the surrounding tissues. And actually, there are people who I have spoken with and learned from who are saying you actually can reverse some of this fibrosis. So with caution,
yes,
because you don't want to disappoint, somebody who can't achieve that, they're not a failure.
Yes.
Life is a mystery.
Yes.
And yet there are so many things that you can be doing. And, having a sense of joy about getting to do it is important. And, we were talking about this before. I've had many, many, many moments of, oh my God, I'm effed basically.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lay down and cry about it. But to linger there is a big mistake. Release, excrete those feelings, recognize them. Oh, this is part of that balance. There is some hormesis to negative emotions.
Yeah.
A little bit of it can guide you into higher places.
Yep.
But, to have a sense of joy, like, wow, I love cooking food that's kidney healthy.
Yeah.
It's exciting. And my husband's sitting here eating his breakfast as we're talking. And I sat here and cried one day because I couldn't eat beets. My potassium was high and I was being really strict to get my potassium repaired. Of course, nobody bothered to tell me that if all you need is bicarb. Once I got bicarb, it was all better. Yep. Okay, thanks. That's not hard. But, every case is different. And yet I cried about the beets. Like I was grieving this sense of, health food Hannah. I was a health food chef back before I did any medical stuff. And so, wait a minute, what's healthy for me is different than what it used to be. And the irony is now I can be eating beets because I got my potassium better. And now he's dealing with oxalate, so he's not eating beets.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it is.
It's like, okay, whatever.
It is, right?
Life is interesting. And the kidney adapts. So, when there's a hit to the kidneys, they try different things out. What I realize is I have to adapt.
Yes. Yep.
I have to mimic that. And again, with gratitude, for self-forgiveness.
Yes. Yep.
And joyously, thank God I have the wherewithal to do this stuff. Because not everybody does.
It's really easy to just kind of lay down and take it, right? And say, this is my sentence. But I'm finding more and more people don't want to do that. More and more people are motivated to do the work and do the change. And I love that you said, we have to adapt like the kidneys. That's perfect. We have to, our bodies are always adapting to keep us alive. And, mentally, emotionally, we need to adapt along with it, right? I think that's a really important point, right? That our bodies are guides if we're willing to see it that way. So, it's so much of it is perspective, right? Listening, and it's the perspective. And I love that you spoke about the Raja Yoga and the kidneys deciding whether to keep it or get rid of it. Because, from traditional Chinese medicine that the kidneys, often represent fear, right? And in traditional Chinese medicine, they're responsible for storing and regulating your body's essence or jing, which is considered life force, right? And
Exactly.
when fear fear is excessive or prolonged, it depletes the kidney's essence and it results in symptoms, right? So do you feel like you know this knowledge, right? But do you feel that played a role in your development of the kidney cancer?
I think the combination of things. I grew fibroids instead of babies and used NSAIDs to deal with the discomfort when I had my period.
Okay, yeah.
That's kidney toxic.
Yep.
I did my master's thesis on these wonderful new drugs that help with cramps.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. So I'm sure that didn't help. All of those stresses that I described that I went through, I think it really came from my own physiology, which, the COMT thing, unable to offload the catecholamines. I think I just, all of that stuff, it was enormous. It was crazy. And then getting together with my husband was a positive stress.
Right.
I mean, it was this like, oh, wow. And we were ridiculous. We were old and ridiculously in love.
Oh,
and so, it's good. We had people, like we'd go for hikes and people would take our picture. We were so like, oh, so, but, maybe it was excessive on top of the other excesses. And so I don't know if it was fear as much as perhaps, the reaction to all of these things that were coming at me.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I mean, I gave up a lot of what I'd been doing because of these traumatic episodes.
Right.
I mean, being assaulted, being, all that. I mean, the assault of the embezzlement was really enormous. This was a person who came to our family gatherings, was very trusted. And, and so I was talking about this last night. I pulled out some of my Chinese medicine books because I actually studied Chinese medicine and included acupuncture in my practice. Yeah. I still do. I don't know if it's like the pathology itself induces a state that feels like fear. So it's both, like something really scary is going to tweak your nervous system to a place that's unhealthy for kidney.
Yeah.
That much catecholamine assault to the kidneys is damaging to blood vessels and to the tubules. And so it's kind of like coming from both ends.
Yeah.
And Buddha says, fear not.
Yeah.
It's easy to say. That's a bit of a koan. And again, embrace it and don't linger.
Yeah, exactly.
So that requires, first of all, it requires, I'm really into the listening. There are messages that come. I can ignore them and go on. I push through, I'm on call. I don't have to, And so, there's a place where we find that sanctuary within. So that despite the external scary world, there's that sanctuary. And you have to find it within.
Yeah.
Sort of like the heart of hearts, that level of thing, and that there's benevolence in the universe, in the divinity of it.
Yes.
That is healing.
Absolutely.
That encourages the healing.
Yeah.
And so we were just talking about that during dinner last night. It was like, because somebody said, well, kidney contains fear. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to say that in that way.
I don't think it contains fear. I think it sometimes might hold on to that energy if you're not releasing it, right? And that, for me, on my journey, it was interesting because when I saw that my kidney function was going, I knew, we talked about this before, that on some level it had to do with COVID. But I was like, and, probably I would say two things: COVID, and I ate a lot of protein, right? I was eating a lot. I was probably eating more protein and fat than I was carbohydrate. So that those two things combined, I'm sure were affecting it. But I also had the piece of the puzzle where just before that, like I said before, I have a daughter who's going to be 8 in 2 weeks, but that back at that time, she was like 2 years old. And in between my two kids, I had 2 miscarriages, and one of them was like it was 8 to 10 weeks, probably the ultrasound read 8 weeks. This should have been 10 weeks, right? But the baby was not progressing. And then eventually I had the miscarriage after that one. But the second one was second trimester, and it sucked. Like on every level, it sucked. And I know it affects different people differently, right? But for me, those 2 were profound. It also happened. One was on Christmas Day, one was on my brother's birthday. There were so many things intertwined in all of it. And I know it took me a very long time to get to this place. I view it as a gift now because I think it was a really big and important jump starter to getting me onto this phase of my journey. But I had so much fear. I was holding, and it was the kidney thing like had me analyze, like, where am I holding on to fear in my life? And I think to some extent, I would say the major piece of it was like the fear of anything happening to my children because I had that loss, right? And then the fear, I think there was a low-key fear, maybe a little bit, that my body was like betraying me. And I know I've spoken with a lot of the people I work with on that, right? And I had to overcome that, right? And then there was also, which I had worked, I worked on this more recently, it was maybe the fear of judgment. Because for me, and I think you can probably relate to this too, it was owning who I am, right? Because I had so much of my identity was in the, functional medicine world and working alongside with the IFM. And I was like, I've been doing all of this training in spiritual, modalities, mind, body, trauma healing. I'm certified in many trauma healing modalities. And I think like in the back of my mind, there was a fear of like rejection or judgment from all of those people. And I had to let it go. And I found it more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So, because the funny thing is off like just saying to me, I'm like, I don't have a lot of fear and I'm not a fearful person, but I did have these ones that were kind of hanging around in the background, and I had to look for them, right? And work through them. And then like we talked about before, the grief and everything else that kind of is intertwined with all of that. Like, the fear, grief, shame, all of these things that can kind of swim together. Right. And so in the last 3 years, have done a lot of work surrounding that. And my kidney function has improved. I'm sure it's a combination of all of the things, right? Changing my diet, my lifestyle. My lifestyle's good, right? But largely it was very good. I have prioritized working out because I was always a workout person. Then I had kids. And then it was like, I wasn't prioritizing myself. And then I did the work surrounding like all of that emotional piece. And it was like things improved so much more. So that's why I asked you, because I feel like our body unlocks so many, just gifts. And, there is the mystery of it all too, right? And on the why and the how and all of this, but it can be a beautiful journey, right? If you're willing to open your eyes and, like you said, listen and see. And here.
Yeah, it's about self-love.
Yeah, yes.
It's really like, I can do this, it's like, I figured this out in residency, which was really hard. I was already 40 and I was hanging out with 20-somethings. And so there was a difference.
Yes.
Staying up all night several times a week was stupid. But it was the way people spoke to each other. And I'm a sensitive. And so I would just do this.
Yeah.
Literally, during rounds, nobody really knew. You're allowed to but what I was doing was self-soothing, self-loving. You can do this. I can do this, and I will do this. And so, this whole journey with recovery, you have to love yourself enough to adapt, to remove people and things that are toxic, to embrace things that are helpful, even if they're expensive or they're hard to come by or you don't even really want them. But it's a huge part of the experience. And again, we know this. It's not necessarily included in the conversation in the 7-minute visits you have
Right.
with doctors. I mean, I was shocked when I went to see so many doctors when I was really sick, and I'd come home just like, really? But, I'm in my practice. I was in Ashland, Oregon for a long, long time and had a home office. So, I tell people go pick some plums, on your way out or whatever,
Yeah.
and spent time. I mean, that was my either the curse or the blessing of my practice, because sometimes people had to wait because I wasn't done with the thought, and it's like giving yourself the time, giving yourself the blessing. It's like, are you going to take care of your kid when your kid's sick? Of course.
Yes. I know when you filled out, the paperwork of the questions that we asked before you got on the podcast, you had written, self-love is the beginning step to embracing our health. Knowing how to take care of our kidneys means life can be easier. And I love that. There's so much beauty in it, and simplicity and just wisdom, because it is so true. I mean, the essence, I think one of the main, like the essence of healing is like loving yourself, right? It's truly, truly loving yourself, because when you truly love yourself, your life changes. And I know we're human and we have our struggles, like we have all of our emotions and we have life. But when you can love yourself, that it life changes, right? Life changes so much. Like that for me has been the biggest piece of the journey, right? And the fact that I feel like there's a peace, there's a knowing. Like I said before, I'm at a place where I really don't have a lot of fear. Like I don't fear dying. That was something when I was younger, I probably feared. I don't fear dying. I trust myself. I trust my knowingness, right? And that, I feel like, even though, you had all the struggles, do you feel like you're at a place where you're there? And how do you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, I could relate to when you were talking the shame.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to be telling people my whole story at a point.
Yeah.
Now I'm like,
yeah,
who cares? But it really is about embracing the experience. The story's okay. And I didn't feel like I could trust my body. I felt like it was sabotaging me, and I don't anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, the mind and the body kind of get to meet in the middle, and to realize the force of thought. And then on top of that, the force of no thought, the meditative place, which my next blog post, I want to write about bioregulation of meditation. And religious practice, prayer, mantra, breath practices, all of that stuff really is medicine. It changes physiology just like taking a pill does. And that's really important to understand. There's a place for taking a pill. I mean, I take a lot of supplements because I'm still in the process of repair. And it's true, I mean, it's a little harder when you're older. It's, things don't work in the same way. I mean, I know that to be so. I mean, I'm hitting 3/4 of a century. I'm like, wow, isn't that cool?
That's
but
awesome. I love it.
I mean, I have garden helpers who are, one is in his 30s and the other's in his 50s, and they're like, we have to work to keep up with you. So I was like, cool, that kind of reinforcement, and having these two young guys sort of flirty with me, like we're playful when we're working together, is validation that I am safe in this world and in this life. I mean, I have concerns. I wouldn't say fears, for some of the crazy things going on in the planet. Are we headed to World War III? Are we all going to be suffering? Some of these bombings. I'm like, it's a struggle emotionally. And yet I look around me and I'm like, how am I in this moment right now? Good.
Yeah.
And I've worked with cancer patients in this regard. I would go as the family doc when they were in the hospital, perhaps, and just go, let's close the door. We're going to sit. How am I right now? This here and now. All right, I'm not so bad. Okay. Because, what's the fear? I'm going to throw up. I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to lose my life. Okay. Loss is a real part of living. How do I embrace that as part of God?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so ultimately, it's that concept of faith.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's what you brought up, the belief.
Yes.
Do I believe that there's benevolence? Do I have karma that's going to bring trauma to me? And how do I address that? How do I surrender myself to understanding I'm not perfect?
Yep.
Nothing I do is perfect, honestly. And yet the perfection of that imperfection is, I'm so much better. It's crazy.
Mm.
I can't even put words around it. It's amazing. And I have one friend who lives here she said when she first saw me, she was very aware that I was sick. She's a bit of a healer psychic. And most people didn't. They were like, what are you complaining about? You look fine. And to realize, and she's telling me, you don't look like that anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's a lot of validation along the way. Mm-hmm. And so, because it's slow, it's like, you can't take a pill and all of a sudden your kidneys are fine.
Yeah.
It's a very gradual process. And really, I use this expression, which is harvesting the low-hanging fruit from the kidney tree of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I love the tree of life idea, that there are many branches and there's ways that we can address it. And yet, here it is. It's close. We can do that. And that may not be enough. Mm-hmm. It's good. But so that's when we start placing some nutrient supplements, some mitochondrial support. All these things are real. Over time, I sustain damage from decreased kidney function.
Yeah.
So I'm still dealing with repair of that, the endothelial aspect.
Yeah.
Okay. I weighed 82 pounds at a point, which was like, oh my God. And, I'm little, so that sounds bad. It's not that bad, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I've regained muscle.
Yes.
I'm aware that I'm obliged. Mm-hmm. Some days, I live at the beach, so I can go swim. Some days it's windy, the water's cold, and I don't want to. I'm going to do it anyway.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, it's nice,
Yeah.
It's nice out there, and so it really is like, can I be the superior mother to my own self?
Yeah. Yep.
If I was my mother, what would I tell me? And so, it really is about loving yourself. And, the divine mother is part of that benevolence in my mind. Yeah. And so I can embody that even if I'm not perfect.
I love that you're saying all this because it's the stuff that I say all the time to people. You don't have to be perfect. Yeah. You can have your healing and your medicine comes from you. You are your medicine. That's a huge piece of it. And I tell people there's no one right way to heal. There's no right way to heal. It's like what works best for you. What are the things that you need? And I love your intersection of the, you were talking about the religious aspect, but also the spiritual aspect, the fact that you meditate. And people always want to, in our world, separatist, they want to separate things. We want to separate and divide, right? When in reality, it's all integrated and it's all together. And it's interesting because I was at a conference 2 months ago and they were actually talking about how religion, spirituality, and science used to all be together. And back in the Middle Ages, they intentionally divided it, right? And they wanted to have separation because, typically in those instances, it meant more control, right? It meant controlling people. And so I was like, once we can clear out all of that, those ideas, and like come back to ourselves and the fact that we are our medicine.
Yeah.
And if we allow for all of these, pieces of the puzzle to be present in our healing experience and on our journey, I mean, the sky's kind of the limit for, where you can go with your health. And I love so much that you preach that, you embody it, because there aren't many people who are like trained like yourself, have the knowledge and the experience that you've gone through, that are at that place, right? I just like, it makes me so happy that you that's the way that you are. It's so awesome.
Thank you. So I'm laughing as you're saying this because I have this meme that I use, which is medicine is fragmented.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You have the left eyelash doctor,
Yes,
and then, the right earlobe doctor. And so I call it that what we're doing is defrag.
Yeah. Yes, we are doing defrag. Oh, that's an
I call
awesome
what am I doing with kidney? Is taking all these separate things, putting it into one conversation.
Yep.
So it's not fragmented. Like, what does parathyroid have to do with kidney?
Yep.
Yes. Let's have that conversation, but I have bone problems.
Oh, that's kidney.
And so I actually call kidney a root cause.
It is. Absolutely. The kidney is so connected. Like you had mentioned, there's so many systems that the kidney is connected to, and it is often ignored. So I think it's important. And your book is, I know you said you don't like to travel, but I feel like you're the person who needs to be going to the conferences, or have somebody do it for you to sell your book to people, at these conferences, because people need to hear this. It's a really, really important message, not only for the clinicians, but also for, the patients, because so often the patients are the driver of their care, and they have to advocate for themselves. And the more knowledge they have, the better off they are going to be, and the better outcomes they're going to have. So if you had just said, you were talking about your low hanging fruit, what are your top 2 or 3 low hanging fruit that you tell people to go after first?
Diet.
Okay.
Which means, with kidney, first of all, organic matters. Because I have a chapter in the book about glyphosate. It's nasty to kidney.
It is.
Okay, so there's that, along with all the array of the other nasty stuff. So that's one piece of it. The unique balance, as you've brought up, I mean, there's a fad about using so much protein. And, some people are talking about, 1 to 2 to 3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
Yes.
And what I talk to people is 0.6 to 0.8 grams of protein. And so, that's something. And then animal protein actually has some harm to kidney. Does that mean absolutely every single person with kidney problems should never eat any animal product? Well, not necessarily, but plant dominant. I love that.
Yeah,
the Plato diet.
Yep.
Plant dominant, meaning you got to learn, like, what else do you eat for protein?
Yep.
So I encourage people to use Chronometer, which is a free app.
Yep.
It tells you so much information that, it's free, and all you got to do is have a scale and be bothered with measuring and doing it.
Yeah.
But it's a huge one. And so, that plus you got to know your labs.
Yeah.
So if your phosphorus is elevated, there's a whole conversation. If your potassium's elevated, another conversation. Is there dysbiosis? More conversation. So diet, it makes every conversation I have take a long time.
Yes.
Sleep is another one that so many people don't sleep good. And, there's a lot in the book about, so what? What if I don't sleep good? Well, hello, I used to be on call. Oh, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I'm good. I mean, yeah, right. Self BS is something that's worth looking into.
Yeah.
Now I've prioritized it. I got an Oura ring. I figured it out.
Yep.
My REM sleep is later in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I sleep in.
Yeah.
Husband gets up, he's in the garden and back before I'm out of bed.
Yeah.
And yet that's when it's like my brain works better. Without REM, you're in trouble. And
Yes.
so, knowing that the pineal bioregulators are amazing.
Okay.
They actually help the body make its own melatonin.
Yeah.
I also take some melatonin as well, but so that toxins is huge. And the way I say it is, what's under your kitchen sink? What's under your bathroom sink? What's in your bathroom closet that you're putting in and on your body?
Yeah.
What's in the refrigerator that's toxic? What's in your garage that's toxic? Okay, then we'll move on to people who you have a choice. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but sometimes you do. So all of that is I call it renal detoxicology. It's like, that's the success story, is, as well as you can. And it's ongoing every day. There's something that's aware. And so that exercise is the other one, which kind of fills all of these, to move chi around, whether it's putting on music and dancing, whether it's laying in your bed doing leg lifts. Too much exercise can be toxic. Acidity is a thing with kidney. I mean, there's metabolic acidosis that can be attended to by diet, can be attended to by exercise, can be attended to by meditation, and a little bit of bicarb citrate doesn't hurt.
Yep. Yes.
So, those are really the big things. Stress, I mean, all of them matter, It depends. If somebody, I talked to somebody yesterday who is profoundly depressed. Nice guy, I mean, motivated, but, it's like, I want to do some more conversation, like, who hurt you? Like, you have so much going for you. How do we unravel this?
Yeah.
I'm depressed. It's like, well, why don't you look for the joys in your life? So I told this guy to start a gratitude journal.
Yeah.
Let's, I don't want to do the limbic system stuff. I hate DNRS. And I'm like, well, okay, find another one.
Yeah,
then.
find something else that works.
It's so critical. And so, so I don't know that I can pick a few of them, because, one
that
leads
works.
to the next.
Yeah.
Where's the joy? What's your recreation? What do you do on vacation? Is it toxic, stressful, or is it, relaxing? Time in nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is a huge one. And, I mean, I can't even remember what it's like to live like in town.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I don't know if you could hear that. My neighbors' grandkids are here blowing off firecrackers still.
No, I didn't hear that. Oh, that's funny. Oh, no.
Oh, good.
No, that's awesome. Like, those are all really, really important pieces. It's funny. It's like the nature, and for me, nature, I live in the mountains and I love the mountains. It's like I grew up in South Florida, and it was on the beach, and I like the beach, but I don't like, the beach is not like my sanctuary. I feel like the mountains and the forest are my sanctuary. And it's funny because we lived in the mountains 5 years ago. We lived there for 2 years, like versus where we are now. It's about a 20-minute drive. And I loved it. It was so healing, and I felt at home. I mean, I could walk out of my backyard and just get onto trails and go through the forest and the mountains, and it was amazing. And there were little waterfalls and so many cool things. But here's the caveat. It caused me a lot of stress because we were so far out of town. I had to drive everywhere. Like, my kids are young, right? And so sports and school. And I was spending my whole life in the car. And I'm like, well, this kind of negates the positive of where we live. So now we live in town. Thankfully, it's a smaller town. And I'm a 5-minute drive from the trailheads and stuff like that. So it's like, the give and the take. If I didn't have, I adapted. I had to adapt.
You adapted.
Yeah. But
and that's wise, because, I mean, the concept, like, I don't have to go anywhere anymore. I mean, I did the same thing when I was in Oregon. I lived way out of town. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I same thing. I could just walk out my door, and I moved closer in because slippery roads. When I was on call 3:00 in the morning, I'm sliding on the road, which
not fun.
is dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, there's a wisdom to acceptance,
Right.
surrender to what is on the menu for me now. And I used to say, I grew up doing classical dance. My family was very involved in New York with classical ballet and costumes. And had I had long legs, I might never have escaped that, but I didn't. And, but, I would say, like, I'm not the choreographer, I'm just performing. And so do I do my performance gracefully? Because I didn't write this script.
Yep.
And yet, how do I show up?
Yes.
To do it with wisdom and choosing properly. Like, I can't do everything, but, I think of that with choosing supplements. I mean, you could start taking all these things are good, 40 herbs and 35 more. Too toxic, too much. And so it's like really, I don't know, asking for the guidance, asking to find people who can guide, and then complying.
Yeah.
Being willing to do what can actually help. And your point is beautiful. It's like, do you believe that you can?
Right.
And you don't believe that you can, it's very possible you won't.
Yeah. Right. It's also, I love that you talked about looking for the guides and asking for help, because I feel like in the world we live in now, so many people think that they have to do it alone. And I think that that's a huge part of why so many people are suffering, because humans, are innately wired to be communal people and to have a village and to have a vast, network of support. And so often we don't do that. And that's one of the first things that, like, when I'm working with people, I ask them, like, who do you have? Who's the person you call when you're sad? Who's the person if you needed, groceries, if you were sick? Who are you going to call? If you have kids, who's going to pick your kids up from school? All of these things, like if you have something happen, like we need those people and we need to be willing to ask for help. And it's totally okay, right? And normal and important.
Yeah, I mean, that's also on my tree of lifestyle is social.
Yeah, the social part is huge.
Family and social kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, my message to clinicians is you can learn about this. My message to patients is you can learn about this and get better.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to know. I mean, I did a lot of what I came up with using the internet, finding studies. I mean, I bought a few big fat kidney books, and it's humbling to realize how much is going on in here at any moment.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, I remember having that experience when I first learned chemistry. And I remember sitting and looking out the window at the library where I was studying and realizing, like, how many billions of reactions are going on in any minute.
Yep.
I mean, just like, I can't even wrap my mind around it. And so it's like, how do I relate to improving myself when I can't even imagine what it is? And that's the mystery.
Yeah, right?
I mean, that really is. It's like, this thing that we get to inhabit is quite spectacular and amazing. And it's very upsetting when it isn't working.
Yeah, it's so true.
I mean, I watched my dog, how, when the dog and she got really attacked badly and, wasn't able to walk. I mean, we had to haul her outside to pee and poop. And she was very humbled by it. I mean, I could see, even in this other mammal, the experience that she had of feeling sad about what was happening, and looking at the other dogs, and then as she got better, she'd just start wagging that little tail, and see, like, I'm feeling better, and now there's a gratitude in her that I didn't see before.
Oh, I love that so much.
Interesting, yeah.
Animals can be important too, right? That connection and the healing, and that's another, layer, that level of connection.
Yeah, that sounds like another good blog post to write. I'm looking for things to write blog posts that nobody else is really talking about. Yeah. And looking at it through the kidney lens. Because that's what I wrote on the book is a physician's reference manual and clinical notebook, mine, whole body regeneration through the lens of kidney. One of my doc colleagues who I did a consult for made a suggestion that you're really looking at the whole body, but through the kidney lens. And it's true. And that's what I want to encourage people is be aware. I mean, kidney is regeneration. It's like creativity, intuition, discernment.
Yes.
I mean, wow, like just meditating on those qualities is empowering. And some of this stuff that I was just doing this last night, the idea that these things are actually medicine, that, there's change in the physiology by doing this stuff. It's not airy-fairy at all. It's actually really science. And as you say, it's when they come together.
Right.
That Einstein, I got this big fat book. We read out loud when we're cooking and cleaning up from dinner, and got this fat book about Einstein and his life. And it's like he brought spirituality and the idea of energy together. And it's like, oh, and the other thing I remember was first learning chemistry was really fun because I was supposed to be, like a dancer and a writer, all this science stuff, not me. But I found the pathway to it, and understanding that energy was both waves of energy, wavelengths, and packets, particles. And I was riding my bike one day to school, and I could see the light coming through the trees as particulate. And I understood, this is the particles coalesced. And one big human clot of energy. And so, there's a lot of inspiration to be had. That's why there's joyousness in learning it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. I love that you're bringing this up because obviously, like, I changed the name of the podcast to Quantum RX because when it comes down to it, right, we are all just energy. And like you said, right now we're in a condensed form. And I get into the science of that because one of my big pieces that I really want to convey to people is because I used to always think it's like, it's so woo, right? And I always thought of myself as a good combination of the science and the woo, but it really is science. There's so much science behind energetics and spirituality and religion. There's science that connects all of it. And it's interesting because I do go down in some of the other podcasts, like explaining this to people so that they understand, how all of this is connected and how everything we're talking about helps heal us, right? It's not just one thing. It's many things, right? Especially if you're open to receiving that.
And I'm watching myself being triggered by the idea of woo, which I came from the mid '60s. Of like there was something that happened. I mean, some shift that was stunning, and we're still experiencing the downstream of that.
Yes,
and yet there were forces trying to shut that up. We were all aware of it all along. It's still happening.
Yes.
And so, I consider that term insulting and gaslighting.
Yeah, I know.
And yet, there's people fad out about it. It's like, well, I meditate. I'm not supposed to get anything wrong with, and it's like, well, it works. And yet, you may, like I was telling you, I mean, my dog was so sick that first I started with the oral antibiotics. I was watching her thinking she's going to end up in sepsis because she was damaged so much by I don't know what, either a deer antler or a dog mouth. We're not sure. She won't tell us. And then moved on to injectable antibiotics. That's when she got better. And, it's humbling to realize there are times when we do need these allopathic tools.
Oh, absolutely.
And
100%.
Well placed, not, thrown at, and it's the same thing with meditating and diet, all these things. I mean, you can fad on it and maybe be disappointed, and yet to embrace it and add it to the bigger picture. I mean, it's amazing. And so, the idea that something's woo-woo, I mean, look at the science of it, real science, not this, I'm science,
Yes,
it's like,
I know. Yeah. Yes. That's a whole other topic because of the researcher in me, the research realm that coming from that world, I knew. I mean, I knew when I was in it that so much science was manipulated, and I knew that was not a place I wanted to stay long because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to look back. You have to look back for a lot of good science. I love that you brought up Einstein, because he is another person that I've gone back to, him and Niels Bohr, for a lot of the science on what I do now. So it's interesting.
And it turns out he was kind of a character. I mean, he was a little bit of a radical dude. I don't know. It's funny because my aunt, my mom's brother's wife, who I adored, they lived in Princeton, and her swimming partner was Einstein's secretary.
Oh,
and so I met the secretary. I never met him.
Oh,
but
cool. That's awesome.
It's like, I thought he was like a regular conventional guy, and when reading this book, I'm like, oh my God, he would have been a friend. I mean, he would have been a '60s character the way I was, questioned authority, just because they say it's something. I mean, I was a pest to my high school. Because I was wide awake and questioning absolutely everything they said, coming up with, when I would research it and came up with stuff, and so, we talked about that. We were those kind of people, I think sent to rabble rouse. And I lived in community back in I guess in the early 70s, and we would talk about raising hell, meaning to elevate it. Different concept.
Right.
And so, and that's still with me, as I feel like, to elevate suffering and to elevate concepts that are really keeping us tethered to a hellish reality is a sacred duty. I'm obliged, in Hawaii, you call the kuleana. My kuleana is to share this wisdom so that we can all enjoy this amazing place that we get to live in before we ruin it all.
Yeah. I feel a very similar sense of obligation to do the work, pass on the knowledge, and kind of raise the level and the vibration of where we're at. I'm like, I turned 50 this year, and I'm like, I keep telling people, I'm like, I'm looking at the back nine, and I very profoundly feel that. Like, I've always felt that way, but like there was a shift that happened somewhere right before my birthday, which was in April. I felt this happening, and I'm like, I feel very intensely tied to that purpose, because I know that's why I'm here.
And having purpose. I mean, that's a question I often ask people. What's your purpose in life? What's feeding you so that you can keep going despite the challenges? And having, it's I'm a Sagittarius, so it's like having places to focus has always been a joy to me. Having something that I'm dived into, and so I go figure, being a family doc didn't really nourish that place, except for the fact that I was doing it all with a holistic frame around it. And so that was the passion of it. And I still like the term. I mean, it got overused, and then all of a sudden we're talking complementary, integrated, all these. I still love the concept of the whole.
Yes, me
because
too.
It doesn't eliminate any of it. When you need a steroid, use the steroid, but don't just leave it at that. What else are you doing to fulfill what the steroid was addressing, which it didn't heal anything, and yet there's, the functional foods, the botanicals that you can eat that are actually healing. all of it. I mean, and part of what I do here is I'm looking to grow food and medicine. I took a place that really was sort of like a vacation rental, sit here and look at the ocean kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a decade of time, it's evolved into a very lush garden with many healing plants. So I have the next book I'm going to do, God willing that I actually have the motivation to keep going with this, is called My Kidney Garden.
I love
and all of the foods and plants, mine, like literally mine, not like what you should do. But here's what's, and I mean, some of them are amazing. Chanca piedra is a weed.
Yep.
I mean, we were pulling it out till a friend came over and was like, "You want this plant?"
Yes.
And it basically works on oxalates and uric acid.
Yep.
It's called Stonebreaker.
Yeah.
It's an amazing medicine.
Right.
Tulsi grows here like as a weed. It shows, the birds poop and all of a sudden there it is.
Yep.
And so, there's so many things. I mean, plantain, not the banana, but the
plant. Yeah, the plant. Yep.
Is, I put rocks in the middle of my yard because there was a patch of it. I was like, don't mow this.
Yeah. Yes. No, I get that.
So many tools.
Yeah.
And unfortunately in the realm of nephrology, there's this like, don't do any of that stuff.
Oh yeah. Everything's nephrotoxic. Everything is nephrotoxic, right?
And there actually is research. I mean, and I will not take anything before I do research.
Yes, absolutely.
See, like actually there are things that
there
are
absolutely. Yep.
Somebody gave me a carton of star fruit. They grow here.
Yeah.
And after I ate a bunch of them, I found out that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody gave me some, I cut them up and made little hanging things out of the stars.
Yeah.
Hung them around my kitchen until they molded, but
Yeah.
And so now there is a place for that. And, the last nephrologist I saw basically told me I was going to hurt myself after I went from a GFR of 30 to 51. I was like, well, I don't think I'm hurting myself. I think that there's benefit to this. I've read about all these things and you can, the amount of literature that's available to us, you can, and these days you can take an article that you don't understand, drop it in Chat GPT and say, I don't understand this. Explain it to me.
Yeah.
There's so many ways to really wise up and extend what you're able to do besides don't take NSAIDs, don't take PPIs. Here's your ACE inhibitor. See you in 6 months. Not enough. It really is a lifestyle to embrace, which isn't, oh, poor me, I'm sick, so I have to do that. I mean, it's always right there.
Yeah.
It's always right there. But it's optional to just go, wow, I have tools. I don't have to be in this place.
Right? It's all about choice, right? The choices we make. That's what I always tell. I tell the people I work with and I tell my kids this all the time. I'm like, it's choices. You can do choices that support your health and your life and, your desires, or you can choose the opposite, right? And it's going to take away from that. So I'm like, where are you placing that, that energy?
Yeah. Exactly. And I use that term when people say, well, I had a cheat day. No, you're an adult. This isn't a game. You had a day. You chose some things that you wanted.
Yeah. And that's fine, right?
And, do it sometimes. I mean, for a long time, I didn't eat chocolate because I just didn't do anything with phosphorus. My phosphorus was elevated, which means calcium goes from your bones to your arteries, all bad.
Yep.
Now that's normalized itself, so I'm a little looser, I'll eat like a little bit of chocolate, and learning that discipline. And so, the trend in the kidney scene is to say, oh, you'll have cheat days. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Or kidney warrior. And I'm like, actually, I'm more into being a kidney yogi.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have that flexibility and to be able to connect. I don't want war. War is bad.
Yeah.
I understand the fierceness.
Yeah.
like warrior pose.
Mhm.
But, even that, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm looking for peace in the home, peace in the body,
Me too.
harmony.
Harmony is beautiful. I really, really enjoy that. So let me ask you, if people are looking to connect with you, where would they find you?
I have a website, which is Rhenology-is-kidneysuccess.com.
Perfect. And we will have that linked in the show notes.
Rhenology being, did I say it already? Rhenology is the art and clinical science of kidney success.
Yes. Yes.
Watch how that changes your limbic system from kidney failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll do it one more time.
Yep.
Ukrainian artist. It's beautiful.
I love that. That artwork really speaks to me because I feel like it's showing like the DNA and it's showing like the essence of the being, right? The essence of that, what we all are, divine light, right? Well, Robin, thank you so much for being on today. It was such a pleasure to dive into all of this with you. And you are such a wealth of wisdom, and I'm just super, super grateful for you.
If you made it this far, I truly appreciate you. Remember, knowledge is just the beginning. Taking action is what truly sparks change. If you're overwhelmed and don't have enough energy to make it through the day, I invite you to book a free 20-minute coaching call with me. It's a no-obligation chat where we can discuss your health goals and how I might be able to help you achieve them. Visit the link in the episode description to book that call. Until next time, keep striving for wellness, and remember, you have the power to not just survive, but thrive in motherhood.